Welcome everyone to another episode of Dice and Brushes. Today we are going to do an unboxing slash bagging of Warhammer Imperium issues number 48 through 51. And without further ado, let's just get to it. So in the premium, 48 comes with another Munitorum. Well, I should say ruined Factorum, but it's another Imperial building that we've had before, and it'll just help add to your collection. So going right into this, and it looks like I need to move this a little bit. So we start off strong with some lore on the Adeptus Sororitas. More specifically, this is a Crusade mission roster where you can generate a name for the Crusade. A little bit about the name for the Canoness, etc. Everything that you've gotten so far in the Imperium magazine, plus what you will soon be getting. Then we go straight into the Dark Angels, a little bit of basic lore about them, the Green Wing. We got a little bit about the Fallen, the Death Wing, and my personal favorite, the Raven Wing. Then we got a lot of lore about the Space Marine Apothecaries, what their symbols mean, their war gear, etc. Then we have, let's see if I can move this a little bit about the Imperial Creed, about how the Imperium works with this state religion, how the Ministorum fits into things, and how the Adeptus Sororitas fit within the Adeptus Ministorum, everything being within the Imperial cult itself. Then, of course, we have a fair bit of lore and some beautiful, I shouldn't say photos, some beautiful artwork on the Penitent engines. Then we got some lore about the Sisters Repentia. Let's see if we can get this better. There we go. The Sisters Repentia, the Archoflagellants. And again, a little bit more on the Penitent slash Penitent engines, I'm sorry. And the Mortifiers. Of course, we have to build your Ruined Manufactorum, or Ruined Factorum, how to paint it, using the paints that you've gotten so far. And this is the part I really want to focus on a little bit more. How the Acts of Faith system works for the Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. We go into how to generate the miracle dice. So at the start of each battle round, you gain one miracle dice. At the end of any phase in which any of the following conditions are met, you gain a miracle dice. So Vengeance, when Sisters battle units from your army destroy one or more enemy units. Sacrifice, when an Adeptus Sororitas character is destroyed. Note that miracle dice can also be gained via some other rules. So I think it's Ebon Chalice that gives you additional ways to gain some more miracle dice. Then what it actually means to perform an act of faith after you get all of these faith points saved up, what you can do with them. This is very helpful, especially for Brett right now, who is getting ready to start Sisters of Battle because of this Warhammer Imperium magazine. He looked at it via, I shouldn't say really looked at it, but he experienced how the army functions in a battle with one of our friends. And he thought, you know what? This is an army that I could definitely get behind and enjoy using. He likes the close range firepower aspect of the Sisters of Battle and how he can gain points throughout the game with them. Not just through the acts of faith, but through actual victory points. Then we have an example tutorial of how faith points are generated and how they can be used again. Then we have the actual game that is included, the little mini game, the mission. This time again it is Necrons, but now we're getting a little heavier into the Adeptus Sororitas. And in this mission, the Adeptus Sororitas units are mainly stuff that you've already received in previous versions, or I should say in previous issues, so that it makes it very quick for you to get started. Same with the Necron forces. You've already gotten them. Here you go. And this version of a battlefield is actually set up very nicely. And it doesn't seem too far slanted one way or another. All right. And that is issue 48. And then I'm just going to do a quick transition and we'll be into issue 49. Okay. Now that we've got a little transition here, now we're going to go into number 49. So with issue 49, you do get the rest of the sisters that they're going to give you. So you should have one full squad of sisters, a good-sized squad of the Arcoflagellants, some of the Repentia, some of the, I believe they're called the Seraphim, and the Walker that they got, the, oh, I just had it and I can't think of the name of it right now. There we go, I took a quick pause to look. The Penitent Engine, which is a beautiful model. I'll let it focus. Now, I don't know if the Penitent Engine has any options, but the only ones that come in this pack are a pair of the saws with a pair of the flamers. I do not see any other options like the flails that I looked inside the magazine for that it mentions. I only see the saws and the flamers. I don't know what else it might have, although I really do like these flails that it has. Right, yeah, see, let's see. Right there. See if I can get a better view of them. There we go. Just the little details make all the difference. And this kit is absolutely full of them. I'm just going to put that to the side for me to put in a pile to give to Britt. Then, let's finally get into this issue here. So we're going to start out with some more details on the lore behind the Penitent engines. They're amplifiers that augment how much pain the pilot is in, the heavy flamer that it's given. They call it the buzz blade, but it's just a big saw. Some battle record parts for if you're doing a campaign. The Repentia Superior, again, some more lore on her equipment, especially what she does. Again, you have a little bit to write about for her, little spaces for her, if you're doing a campaign. Of course, like any of the others, we're going to have a how to build section on everything that you get inside here. It does tell you the different size bases. So like the Arcoflagellants are getting the 25s, Sister Repentia are getting the 28s, and the Battle Sisters and the Seraphim are getting the 32 millimeter bases. Go through there, and then we finally get where it shows 50 millimeter base for the Penitent engine. I've never seen these in combat. All I've seen so far is what we'll see here later, and that is a little bit about their basic data sheet. Of course, we got how to paint everything that you've received so far for the sisters. And they do end up looking absolutely gorgeous. And this is what I meant earlier by saying this is the only bits that I know about the Penitent engine, let alone the Repentia Superior. Basically, the Repentia Superior has some Neuro Whips and a bolt pistol that make it easier to wound non-vehicle units, the Neuro Whips do. She offers some buffs to the Sisters Repentia. Then it also tells you, I should have mentioned this earlier, if you take a Sisters Repentia unit, the Repentia Superior does not take up a Force Org slot. With the Penitent engines, and it only comes with the 2 Heavy Flamers and 2 Penitent Buzzblade, which under Wrath of Penitent, if I can speak, having 2 of the same weapon basically gives you an attack characteristic of 5 instead of the 4 that is on its data sheet. It is endlessly suffering, so when it does a consolidation or pile-in move, it moves an additional 2 inches, I'm sorry, not just 1. It can advance and declare a charge, and it has a nice 5-up feel no pain. So that actually looks very good. And then it shows you in a nice little example tutorial of how you would use the Repentia Superior to help the Sisters Repentia, and how the Endless Suffering rule works. Just a little quick example, nothing too big. And then before we get to the mission section itself, it does provide some objectives for you to cut out. And then we'll get into the actual mission itself, which they decided to put in its own separate fold out, because now we have escalation. This is a much larger battle than what they have had you done previously. In this, one side is all about the lore behind this mission. So Space Marines and Sisters Battle teaming up against the Necrons. Sorry for the little hiccup there. Flip it over. So this is a 3-page spread of the mission briefing, the mission rules, how to create this battlefield, roughly what its dimensions should be for each deployment zone, exactly what units you'll be using, once column for the Sisters Battle, 1 column for the Space Marines, and 2 columns for the Necrons. Now, these do include, for both the Sisters and for the Necrons, under strength units. So units that would not be legal in a normal game. But I don't know how many points it is for the Imperium. I can only guess it's roughly 900 to 1,000. But for Necrons, I actually put it into Battlescribe, and it was just a few points shy of 900 points. So if it was the full-size units, we'd be talking a little over 1,000, because the understrength units are basically the Tomb Blade and the, where are they? Wraiths. Actually, I forgot to put in the spider, so that's a few points right there. So yeah, it's about 1,000. It's almost 1,000 points for the Necrons. So, not too bad. But now, just remember, this mission does use understrength units again. You will have to finish getting the various units in order to use them in a normal game. But this is definitely a step up from what they've been having you do. And it's a great way to teach new players how to use a lot more units. So with that, I'll be back with the next issue. Alright, and now we're going to go over issue number 50 for the Warhammer Imperium. This one's my favorite of the pack that we got this time around, because now we got a Reanimator. I'll just put it over here. Which they're not the best in game for their points, but I do enjoy using them. We got a Plasmancer, who basically can put out a lot of mortal wounds, similar to how a Psyker would, but without being able to be shut down. some crypto thralls, which I like to refer to as little murder buckets, and a Skopek Destroyer Lord. He can be some fun. I just prefer to use other HQs in game, just with how my list operates. So let's look in and go over here. So again, very well done. We got the parts of the crypto thralls there, the little murder buckets. We got good sized portions of the reanimator. We have a little bit over here where my knuckle is for the plasmancer parts. Again, so this, just the legs for the reanimator are about 3 inches. I don't know what that would convert to in metric. They look to be roughly 3 inches there. We have the sword for the Skopek Destroyer Lord, about as large as my thumb is here. And we have, of course, his claws, which, again, pretty good size. That's just the claws are a little bit longer than my thumbnail. And a little leg for the Destroyer Lord. Let's get that, let that go. If you're starting Necrons, this is probably one of the better parts to pick up if you're buying premium issues individually and you're looking for HQs. This is fantastic. Just because it has 2 HQs, the Reanimator is fun. Again, not the most competitive choice, but fun, especially if you have a Necron horde of just the warriors. It is fantastic. Let's look in here. Let's adjust this too. So, we got some lore about the Canoptic Reanimator, about its atomizer beam, about the reanimation beam, the little claws, and to be honest, I forget very often that it has the atomizer beam to shoot with. I just always think of it only as a buffing unit. I rarely think of it as a fire support unit. Of course, if you're doing a campaign, you can do a little bit with their battle record right here. Then we're going to go into Sisters Battle, the Matriarchs. There are 6 saints that they go over. Now, these are not the only saints, not by far. In fact, one of them that is mentioned later on, which is considered extremely important, is not in this list here. So I highly suggest you go through all these. But even more so, if you're trying to look for a order and you want to choose by fluff, there's 2 of them in here. We got Order of the Sacred Rose and Order of the Ebon Chalice, which I believe is the one that is all about generating faith points in game. These are the ones with the white hair because they want to emulate Saint Alicia Dominica. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. And of course, we're going to go over to how to build your royal court, which is what you got all these Necrons. So of course, it starts with the Skopek Destroyer Lord. It then goes over the Plasmancer, which once Brett gives me his half of this magazine, I will then possess 3 of, and I'll be able to do a Necron Warrior Horde with Reanimators and Plasmancers. So lots of just mortal wounds and Necron Warriors just to flood the field with. I love the idea of that. I don't know why. We got a little bit of how to build the Crypto Thralls, nice and quick, not many parts. And the very easy to build Canoptic Reanimator. And of course, we're going to have how to paint all of these with the paints you have received so far. A bit of Corex White, The Stormhorse Silver. Of course, we got the final gallery. And then we got the data sheet for the, it's a partial data sheet, for the Canoptic Reanimator. And it's not too bad. I always forget the Atomizer Beam. Actually, it's a decent weapon at 12-inch range, Assault 3, Strength 6, AP minus 2, 1 damage. Combined with some of the other benefits that various Necron dynasties can get, that's not too bad of a weapon. It goes on about what the Nano Scarab Reanimation Beam actually is. It is an aura ability, which is beautiful, but it has to be activated in the command phase. So if you're using this and your opponent goes first and shoots a unit that you wanted to use this on, but haven't been able to yet, that does ignore this, and this is moot, which is one of my only real uh, gripes about the Canoptic Reanimator. If it was just a regular aura ability and not something you had to select one friendly unit in the command phase, I would be extremely happy with this at its current points. But speaking of that, then it goes into a tutorial of how you might be able to use this aura ability. Now it's really a targeted aura ability since you have to pick a unit to go off on. And then it has a little bit about some fluff for the mission they're trying to have you do for the Necrons versus the Sisters again. Over here. So this time it's a Technomancer, Canoptic Reanimator, some Warriors, some Scarabs, and a Canoptic Spider against a Canoness, a Repentious Sister, 7 Battle Sisters for only 7. 3 Seraphim, 3 Sisters Repentia, 2 Arcoflagellants, Flagellant, and 1 Penitent Engine. From what I can tell, this Necron force is all about reanimating things, about fixing things. So it's not going to do a whole lot of damage, it's just going to survive. And the whole point of this mission is to recover the Skopek Destroyer Lord. And with that, we'll go into the next issue. Alright, and now we have the final standard issue for this pack for the Imperium magazine. This time there's no models, there's just 2 paints. Here we go. And they are going to be the Pallid Witch Flesh and the Dawnstone, which is, the Pallid Witch Flesh is a off-white, and the Dawnstone is a medium to light gray. These colors, a lot of people will just say, oh, they're boring white and gray. These are actually quite crucial in a lot of detail work, especially with highlights, for making stone, for painting stone on bases, and things like that. I use these a lot, especially with my Necrons. Put those over to the side. And with this issue, we go over lore for the Skopek Destroyer Lord's war gear, Red Harvest. We go, of course, and this will be the same for all of them. Right on the back of that little bit of lore will be the tracker for if you're doing a campaign. Now we got the same for the Plasmancer for his plasmic lance. I wanted to say prismatic. The energy conduits, which don't really do anything in game. A little bit about how basically the cryptex fly, and a minor lore on his living lightning ability. Then a little bit about the royal agents. This is an actual rule in game. They just don't explain it as a rule, more as coming from a fluff perspective on this page. Again, of course, we got the campaign tracker there for the Plasmancer. Then we have the Crypto Thralls, the little murder buckets. We have some lore for them. Their bodyguard protocols, which we'll go over later. Again, campaign tracker. And for Space Marines, we have some lore on the Raven Guard. I love the lore of Raven Guard. Although they don't have very good rules in game right now, they are fun. They're just not powerful in the game at the moment. And how they work with how the Raven Guard work with aerial assault. A little bit about their chapter master, K. Van Shrike, who has somewhat recently gotten the Primaris treatment. His old firstborn model I thought was absolutely ugly, but this current Primaris model I absolutely love. In fact, I'm going to pause this real quick to get that. All right, I got the model real quick here. This is not part of the Warhammer Imperium set. This is a separate model all on its own. I have used one of the Eliminator heads on him instead of his standard. If Games Workshop comes out with a Phobos or Reaver unit with jetpacks and the ability to take lightning claws, I am going to be all over this, because this guy is absolutely gorgeous. He's awesome looking. Of course, if you buy the Cave and Shrike, he is on a giant slab, because of course the characters have to be on tall items. Anyway, to put him to the side there and continue just on the Imperium magazine itself, we have 2 pages of lore for the original second edition Kill Team starter set, so the second edition of Kill Team, which was Deathcore Krieg versus Orc Commandos. Again, 2 beautiful pages of lore. We have the How to Paint. So this is where we're going over some basic uses of the Pallid Witch Flesh and the Dawnstone. In this case, to put highlights on Space Marines, primarily the Captain, Librarian, Lieutenant, Assault, Intercessors, and Aggressors. So they're not showing you how to use this on the Necrons, for example. They're not showing you how to use it on the rocks. If you're going to do some very basic rocks for the Necrons, I would say just to paint with the Dawnstone, and then dry brush the Pallid Witch Flesh over that. Simple, quick, easy. Is it absolutely perfect? No, but it is very basic rocks that anybody can look at from a good distance away and look and say, hey, that looks pretty decent. And then we are going to have the data sheet for the Skopek Destroyer Lord. He does buff nearby Destroyer Cult units. He does reroll hit rolls of 1 when he attacks, both in melee and in combat. He does have some decent close combat abilities, and his shooting isn't terrible either. But he's mainly a close combat beat stick. Now, of course, they'll have a tutorial of, hey, you would want to use the Flensing Claw in this type of case, but you'd want to use that Hyperphase Harvester, the sword, in this other type of case, so that you can know how to use what weapon against what type of target. Then below that, United in Destruction. This was one of his buffing abilities, and they go do a nice example of how that would go. And I do like this format of data sheet and then flip how you could use examples of how you could use these abilities and these weapons. I like this format. I think they're doing very good with this. The next up is the Plasmancer. I honestly think this is an underrated type of Cryptech. Most people will want to use either the Technomancers or the Chronomancers, but I like the idea of making a mortal wound output build with plasmancers and just loading up. He's got some good strength in shooting, but once he gets in combat, he's gonna flail, and he's not gonna do too well. But if you put him near combat with his Living Lightning ability, and you just put him near enemy units with Harbinger of Destruction, he will do some mortal wounds. And he will do pretty well. And they even go over a simple example of the Living Lightning. They show you how to position him, along with friendly units basically surrounding him, so that he doesn't get hit directly, and he can perform that Living Lightning over and over again. They also show the Harbinger of Destruction ability, some simple ways to get the most out of it. They show the data sheet for the Crypto Thralls, the little murder buckets. They do go over protectors and bound creation particularly well, as well as a little bit about systematic vigor. So they have a nice graphic right here. You can't see it too well there. There we go. Go over a nice little graphic just to make things easy about how systematic vigor works when you have a cryptech nearby. And they go over their protector's ability, which is, it's not a traditional bodyguard ability, it's much stronger than that. So traditional bodyguards, the enemy can target the character if the character is still the closest visible enemy unit. If you have the Crypto Thralls nearby, that does not matter. The enemy would still have to target the Crypto Thralls first. Then we're going to go into a little bit of lore for the mission that they got going on for Necrons versus the Sisters again. But this time you're using the Destroyer Lord, you are using the Plasmancer, 2 Crypto Thralls, a Reanimator, 3 Scopec Destroyers, and a Canoptic Plasmacyte. This is going to be against a Canoness, 3 Seraphim, 7 Battle Sisters, 2 Arcoflagellants, 3 Sisters Repentia, 1 Repentia Superior, 1 Tech Priest Dominus, and 3 Cataphron Destroyers. Oh, actually I didn't think about that. So a little bit of AdMech in here now. And with that, sorry, there was a recording error. But I didn't really miss anything even after deleting some footage. But Battlefield is pretty basic of how they've been. And then on the back here, they show the Triarch Stalker, which is going to be coming in split between issues 52 and 53. And normally this would be the end, but this time around, we have a premium kit to show off here with Tau. So I'll restart this recording and we'll go into this. Okay, now we have the premium pack. This is all about the Tau, and I'm going to split this up into 2 parts because there's just that much to go over. I'm going to do just the models, and then I'll go over what's inside the magazine. First off, we're going to have a Cadre Fireblade. Absolutely beautiful model, and as long as you plan on having even a unit or 2 of Fire Warriors in your Tau army, which is going to be almost everybody, this guy is extremely useful in game, and he's a gorgeous model. Put him to the side here. I have now one of my favorite units within the Tau are the XV-25 Stealth Battlesuits. You're going to have the options for 1 drone in here, 3 burst cannons, and 1 guy can replace his burst cannon with a fusion blaster. And of course there is a homing beacon in here, which you will use later on. Then for the last part, the last unit, I should say, now we have the Fire Warrior sprue, which is one large, and one large, one small, or really 3 parts once you break it up. So this comes with the option of having, let's do it like this, 2 shield drones. You can have, these are the parts for 2 marker drones, or you can have 2 gun drones. Now you can differentiate between breachers and the regular strike teams by what shoulder guards that they have. The breacher teams will have these, I would guess you'd say, more curved shoulder guards, whereas the traditional strike team will have these a little bit more blocky ones. It does come with a DS8 support turret, part there, part up here. One half of the smart missile system. Here's the other half. Here's the I forget the other name for this type of missile, but it's the stronger, I think strength 7 AP -2, I believe, version. Of course, we got a few of the pulse rifles. We got a few of the carbines, and even some blasters on this sprue. And then, of course, we got all the others. Let's bring this a little bit closer. You can see the blasters. You can see another rifle or 2. Now that's 2. You can see another 2 carbines there. As we just go over this, I don't know why, but I love the look of the Tau infantry. Not just the battle suits, but the actual Tau infantry. They look like they make sense, yet while still being high-tech. And you got loads and loads of just the different head options. And granted, some of them are for specifically the breachers, but just that entire section where my hand is at, yeah, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that's 21 options just for the heads. Again, one of them is just a plain head, and the others are split between the strike team and the breacher team variants. Put those aside, and then let's finally get into the magazine portion. All right, and finally, we have this, the magazine itself. So we're going to start out strong with the lore about the Tau Firecast specifically. We're going to go over the Valora Sept. We're going to go over the bonding knife rituals, otherwise known as Ta Lacera. We got the various lore behind the parts of the Cadre Fireblade. Even his hair has lore behind it. Of course, we are going to have a little bit about, for his sheet if you're joining a campaign. The difference here is that part of it is already filled out with his sept, his rank, as well as his sept world. So Shas being fire, I should say cast, Shas being fire, L being a very high rank within the fire cast, and then Valora Sept. And then you can make up the other parts of his name if he has earned an individual name within the Tau Society. Then we go over a little bit about the Fire Warriors strike team, their weapons. Of course, again, a little bit a tracker sheet if you're doing a campaign. One of my favorite units, the XV-25 stealth battle suits, a little bit about their burst cannons, about their fusion blasters, the home baking, which will come into play later if you go over everything that's in here, their marker drones specifically that they have, and a little bit about Chassefray, but not a whole lot. They just tell you it's a rank. And of course, again, let's get it orientated right. Again, a little bit for their, if you're doing a campaign there, just to help keep track. How to build everything that you just received, starting with the Fireblade, then going over to the XV-25s and their marker drone, as well as their homing beacon. Not very hard to do. How to build a shield drone, how to build the marker drone, the guardian drone. Actually, I've completely forgot about the guardian drone. Oop, let's put it up there. There we go. The guardian drone, gun drone. How to build the missile pod. That's what I was thinking of. That's what I was brain farting on earlier. The DS-8 tactical support turret with the smart missile system or the missile pod. Then we actually go over how to build the fire warriors themselves. All right, pretty standard stuff. And then the how to paint. So now this time they have all the paints listed. All, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. All of which you've already received within the Warhammer Imperium Premium packs so far. Of course, this shows you how to paint Veloricept specifically, but you do not have to paint it that way. And it's a good bit here. So I'll just flip through here. Flip, 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 flip. Little finish gallery of everything. And then we have the data sheets, starting with the stealth battle suits. And this section right here is, and you probably can't see it too well, just see as battle suits. And it goes over all the battle suit rules that would normally be in the codex on a completely separate page. Because normally you just go see the battle suit keyword, and then you'd look up what it actually does earlier in the codex. Then, of course, we got the data sheet for the strike team. We got the data sheet for the wonderful Cadre Fireblade, which we do have a Tactics Tuesday video for. And then what is normally a completely different section of the codex, all about drones, what they can do, the rules surrounding them, a few of the various types of drones that you have received within this premium pack, how marker lights work, and then we finally have the mission. So this mission is called On Holy Ground, and this is going to be a very, very small Tau versus Sisters game. And you're basically fighting over a homing beacon, which was part of the stealth team sprue. And it's only going to be done on 22 by 30 board. So, very small mission, very easy to play. So, this premium pack is fantastic if you're just starting out with Tau, or if you just want like a few extra items for them. Nice. That's all we got for today. Like always, give us a like if you enjoyed the video. If you want to provide some constructive criticism, please do so in the comments section below. We do actually read them. And like we say always at Dice and Brushes, get your shit painted.